Ever get that feeling like someone's watching you, even when you know you're all alone? Or maybe you smelled something familiar, like your grandmother's perfume, even though she's been gone for years.
It's those moments that send chills down your spine, the ones that make you wonder if there's more to this world than we can see.
And that's what we're diving into today.
Ugh.
Those stories that make us question, the experiences that defy explanation, the paranormal.
And what's so fascinating is that these stories, they often come from everyday folks, people who have these unexplainable encounters.
It's not just ghost stories or legends. It's real people sharing their personal experiences with the unknown. And you sent us some incredible ones.
Spine tingling, even.
Exactly. So we're going to unpack some listener accounts of, well, strange occurrences, analyze the details, and look at the different perspectives on what might be behind them.
And whether you're a believer or a skeptic, I think the goal is to explore the possibilities, to delve into those mysteries that we just don't quite understand.
Right. So let's start with Bethany's story. Picture this. It's late at night. You're driving down a deserted country road,
Pitch black, just your headlights cutting through the darkness.
and you're heading towards Casbar Cemetery, a place known for its, well, let's say, eerie history.
And maybe a few spooky stories attached to it.
Definitely.
It's the perfect setting for a spooky encounter, and Bethany and her friends, they got more than they bargained for.
So they're driving down this narrow road, barely enough room for two cars to pass.
And suddenly, headlights appear in the distance, coming straight towards them.
And there's no way to avoid this oncoming car.
None. The road's too narrow.
Gets closer and closer. They realize it's a dark SUV,
And the driver, Bethany described him as almost spectral.
like a ghost.
Yeah, like he was almost see-through. Blurred features, his eyes were fixed on them. Really intense.
It's giving me chills already.
And he just kept coming, forcing them closer and closer to the edge of the road.
That's terrifying.
Imagine that feeling. Trapped, no escape.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. And Bethany's friend Jade was driving, and she said later that the steering wheel started pulling to the right, like something was trying to steer them off the road.
Oh, no.
Talk about psychological impact. Not only do they have this mysterious driver, but now there's this unexplainable force, like it's trying to control the car.
It's like a nightmare.
It is. They managed to swerve back onto the road, barely avoiding a ditch. They speed past the SUV. Think they've escaped.
But it gets worse, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. As they drive further into the cemetery, the SUV reappears.
No way. It came back.
Just speeds past them, pulls up right next to them. The driver just stares at them with that same creepy gaze.
They must have been terrified.
Rightfully so. They didn't know what to do.
I wouldn't either.
It's that primal instinct, fight or flight. When we perceive a threat, and in this situation it's amplified, the setting, the isolation, the unexplainable element,
So what did they do?
they took off. Sped out of the cemetery, the SUV right on their tail, like a horror movie, right? This relentless chase on a dark, winding road.
Then what? Did they get away?
And here's the kicker. The SUV, it just vanished.
Vanished. Like disappeared.
Exactly. They're driving, looking in the rearview mirror, waiting for those headlights. But there's nothing. The SUV, it's gone.
No explanation, no tire tracks, nothing.
Nothing. It's like it just ceased to exist.
Wow. Incredible. Terrifying, but incredible. What do you make of that?
It's perplexing for sure. No logical explanation for how a car could just disappear like that.
Could it have been like some kind of prank? Or maybe they were just so scared they imagined it.
It's possible, but Bethany and her friends, they insist what they saw was real. And this kind of encounter, it's not uncommon, especially in places known for paranormal activity.
So what really happened that night on the road to Casbar Cemetery? Was it just a case of mistaken identity, a prank, or something much more sinister?
Or maybe Bethany and her friends encountered something that defies our understanding of the natural world. Bethany's story definitely makes you think twice about those late-night cemetery visits. But as we'll see in Nicole's story, the unexplained isn't always out in those spooky spots. Sometimes it hits a lot closer to home. In fact, right in the place we expect to feel safest.
Yeah, Nicole's story isn't about ghosts or figures in the dark. It's about realizing someone you trust, someone you welcome into your home, could be hiding a secret. A really chilling one.
It's interesting how this story plays on our sense of trust and normalcy. We tend to think people are who they seem, especially when it's family or friends of family.
Exactly. So Nicole's cousin Zoe moves in with her. Needed a place to stay. Pretty normal, right? But Zoe mentions that her boyfriend Carl is having some legal issues.
And not just a parking ticket or something. Carl's a suspect in a double homicide.
Wow.
He says he's innocent, of course. Zoe believes him.
And Nicole, being the trusting person she is, gives him the benefit of the doubt.
But there were signs, things that just weren't quite right.
Like red flags.
Exactly. And we, the listeners, we know what's coming. It's that insider knowledge that creates this tension, this anticipation.
It's like watching a thriller unfold.
Yeah.
The dangers there lurking beneath the surface.
Right. So one day, Nicole finds a business card on the table. It's from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Oh.
Zoe just brushes it off, says the police are just asking questions, but it plants a seed of doubt for Nicole.
Understandably.
Then there's the landline phone, starts having this hollow echo.
Like it's tapped.
Classic sign. It's subtle, but Nicole's suspicious.
It's those little things.
Yeah.
The subtle shifts that make you wonder.
For sure. And later on, it comes out that the police had Nicole's house under surveillance the whole time.
No way.
They suspected Carl, but needed more evidence.
So she was living with a potential murderer without even knowing it. Talk about a violation of trust.
Really highlights how easily we can be deceived, even by those closest to us. Makes you think about the hidden lives people lead.
It's scary to think about.
It is. So Zoe and Carl eventually move away. And it's not until years later that Nicole learns the truth. Carl was convicted of the double homicide.
Wow.
And the police used a Mr. Big sting operation to get him.
What's that?
It's where undercover officers, they create this fake criminal organization, lure the suspect in, gain their trust, and eventually get a confession.
Sounds intense.
It's a controversial tactic, but effective in cases with little hard evidence.
Definitely. But back to Nicole. Can you imagine that feeling? Finding out the truth about Carl. That she'd been living with a convicted murderer.
The impact of that has got to be huge. It's not just the fear, it's the shattered trust, knowing her home, her safe space was violated.
It's a reminder that sometimes the most disturbing stories aren't the ones we hear on the news. They're the ones that happen right in front of us.
And that's just one chapter in Nicole's story. Believe it or not, her experiences with the unexplained didn't end there.
Wait, there's more.
Oh yeah, this one involves a Zoom meeting and a ghost that only certain people could see.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, let's just say that working from home during the pandemic might have saved Nicole from some unwanted office encounters.
I need to hear this. Let's dive into the story of the ghost in the Zoom meeting right after this. All right, lay it on me. The ghost in the Zoom meeting. What happened?
Well, this office building of hers, it already had a bit of a reputation, especially the women's restroom.
Oh.
The automatic paper towel dispenser, it had a mind of its own, would just spit out towels even when no one was there.
Okay, that's kind of creepy. Faulty sensor, maybe?
Maybe. But then there was the toilet water, suddenly turning boiling hot while people were using it.
Oh, no.
Several people experienced it, but they were too scared to say anything, didn't want to be laughed at.
Yeah, I can see why. That's just freaky.
And it seemed to get worse when everyone came back to the office after the pandemic.
Like all that time alone just amped things up.
Exactly. Like whatever was there, it felt, I don't know, bolder. And that's when the ghost made its Zoom debut.
Hold on. Back up. The ghost was eyeing the Zoom meeting.
Okay, so Nicole's in this meeting, just going through the usual work stuff, and her boss suddenly asks, "Does anyone else see the man standing behind Nicole?"
I think I would have screamed.
But her boss and a coworker, they both swore they saw this guy. Red shirt, pants, suspenders, and a cap. Standing right behind her, even bent down like he was picking something up, then walked out of her office.
Okay, now that's creepy. But her office door, was it open?
Locked. No
Oh.
way anyone could have gotten in or out without her seeing.
So, he just walked through the door. That's a classic ghost move, isn't it? But what about Nicole? Did she see him?
Nope, nothing. And to make it even weirder, another coworker said she heard someone calling her name right before the ghost sighting.
So, like, this thing was trying to communicate. But why only show itself to some people?
That's the big question, right? Why are some people more sensitive to this stuff than others? Belief, perception, something else entirely.
I don't know. But it makes you think, right?
It does. Maybe Nicole blocked it out subconsciously. Wasn't ready to see it.
Maybe. She thinks it might be someone who used to live in the building, back when it was apartments in the 1900s.
Could be. A lot of people think ghosts are just spirits tied to a certain place.
Unfinished business or just love for the place, who knows. But what strikes me is she's not scared of him. Actually calls him helpful custodian vibes, like he's just tidying up her office.
Right. It's not your typical scary ghost story. Maybe some of them, they aren't here to frighten us. Maybe they're just continuing their routines or watching over us.
It's kind of sweet when you
Or
think about it. Like, we're not totally alone, even after we're gone. Okay, that's a lot to process. These stories, Bethany's terrifying encounter, Nicole's house guest from hell, and now a ghost in a Zoom meeting. It really does make you wonder what else is out there.
exactly. Are they just spoopy tales, or is there something more to them? Are we really alone in this world, or are there unseen forces all around us? Some good, some maybe not so good.
It's a question that's been around forever, and it doesn't seem like we'll have the answer anytime soon. But these stories, they challenge us, make us question what we believe, remind us that there are still mysteries in this world we might never fully understand.
And maybe that's okay. It keeps us curious, keeps us searching for answers. Skeptic or believer, these stories should make us open our minds to the possibilities, to consider that there might be more to this world than what we can see.
I don't know about you, but I'm definitely leaving the light on tonight. And for all of you listening, if you've had your own unexplainable experience and something that made you question reality, we want to hear it. Share your stories with us on social media.
And if you're ready to dive deeper into the mysteries of the universe, hit that subscribe button. Until next time, stay curious and keep an open mind.